Husbands, you want to know why your wife won't fuck you? Because you've made her your mom.
Ugh.
The Ugly Truth of Divorce podcast with Sam and Leah, helping you not just survive, but thrive.
This is the ugly truth of divorce, where we talk about everything from divorce to kids to co-parenting to life to the next chapter to a little bit of everything. So I want to talk today about a post that Leah Marie made inside of her support group. So take it away. What did you post? Where is it going? And as you do that, I'm going to go help what is going on in the background over here.
Yes. So as a lot of you probably know, 60 to 70% of the time, women are the ones that actually file for divorce. And so I had posted in my support group. It's a women only support group. It's got almost 6,000 women in there right now. And I was just curious as to why they felt like this was the case. Why is this happening? Right. And so I just wanted to kind of dive into some of these and talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay. So one of them says they're tired of caring for another child instead of an equal partner. Now, this is definitely a reoccurring one. Essentially, we get tired of feeling like it's not a partnership, it's not a team.
Yeah.
We're doing it all, and we just get to that breaking point where we're like, we're done. Like we can't do it anymore, and we've talked to you about it, and we've voiced our concerns, and we've tried to come up with and there's just no change. And so I think you get to that point where you're like, I'm done. Like I'm not just going to do everything all the time by myself.
Well, I heard there was a guy on TikTok, very good looking gentleman, like manly hat, beard, scruffy t-shirt. And it was just a very blunt TikTok. He said, husbands, you want to know why your wife won't fuck you? Because you've made her your mom.
Oh,
and that couldn't resonate more with me than I was like, oh, amen, amen. Like, yes, if I feel like I'm your mommy, I can't do dirty things with you.
Right.
I just can't.
Right.
Like I can't, it just, those two don't go.
And I wonder if that is something that happens more often when you marry young. Like if you're marrying younger and you're marrying a guy who really never just lived on his own and supported himself and cleaned his own house and did his own cooking and went grocery shopping and paid all his bills and just was independent for however long. I wonder if that has something to do with it, because certainly for my first husband, I think that was the case. He really he like always lived at home, and then he lived with me. And it was like, there was definitely some like discrepancies.
Yeah.
Whereas my husband now, I mean, he was on his own. He was just doing his thing. He cleaned his house. Like I was able to see how he lived on his own and how responsible he was and all of those things. So then when we merged, it was pretty seamless because we were both comfortable with being independent, and now we're just a team, and now we just help each other accomplish similar goals.
Yeah. I would say my first husband, I became his mom real fast because he put me in that job of like cleaner, take care of things, blah, 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 but then would expect me to be what, and it was just like, it didn't go. Jared and I struggle with it a lot sometimes, or early on we did. I wouldn't say anymore because I've explained it. And plus our roles have changed. When we first met, we were both working and, things have changed. But I would say it's dialogue of saying, and I don't think men understand it until you speak it, until you say, hey, look, you asking me where everything is around the house, or you asking me to, help you with something that you're grown enough to do. Or it's like, that's what the kids ask. I don't need you asking me those rhetorical questions, because then I feel like I'm momming you to death. Like, don't ask me what you should be wearing. Just go pick out your own thing. And so when I explained that early on in our relationship, like, I don't need another child. Like, you just take a chance. And if you fuck it up, you fuck it up. Just don't ask me. I am one that I think, because we work all day and people ask us questions all day, the last thing I want to do is step out of this room and then be asked more questions.
Right.
Like, I'm just like overload of like, seriously, we couldn't figure this out on our own. Why are you asking me? Because even then the kids, sometimes it's like, mom. I'm like, whoa, hey, you need to like figure this shit out on your own.
Yeah.
But I do think, going back to the topic of, I think when you lose that love interest and you just become a care provider for your spouse, it's like, Okay, what's
Yeah.
this gonna look like? Am I wiping your ass when we're 80? Like,
Right, right. Did
which
you
I
ever
don't.
see that? Do you know that show King of Queens? You
Yes.
remember that show? Did you ever see that episode where he walks into the kitchen and he's like, "Honey, where are the scissors?" And she's like, "We have lived in this house for
Yes.
7 years."
Yes.
Like, the scissors are where they've always been. It's shit like that. It builds
Well,
up.
I think, like, I have clients all the time that are like, "I don't know that he's gonna be able to do bath time on his own once we're split." And I was like, I feel your questioning because I think a lot of times when you're married, I think your spouse observes you doing things like, "Oh, she's giving bath," or, "Oh, she's doing homework," or, "Oh, that's how she gets the kid that doesn't wanna get dressed. That's how she does it." But they don't take notes. And then they literally like, "Well, what do you put in the bath water? Well, what do you wash them with?" And it's like, "You've seen me give a bath how many fucking times, and you didn't take any notes mentally?" It's like, "No, they did not." They did not. It's like,
Right,
"You've
right.
literally been in the room with me talking to me, but you didn't pay any attention to the detail." So I think when you pile that and then the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, "Well, how do we do this?" "We've done it 100 times." "Well, you've done it," and I think it's one of those things. It's like when you become their mommy,
Yeah.
adios.
You can only do that for so long.
Yeah.
And that comes up a lot. Another person had said, because like everything else, if she didn't do it, it would never get done. And I've heard this before because
Well,
men are more likely to just deal with it, even though
mhm,
they're not happy and they
yeah.
know it's not a healthy relationship. They'd rather just deal with it and ignore it and sweep it under the rug than do anything about it or take action. And so at some point, the women are like,
Yep.
okay, well, this
Shit or get off the
obviously
pot. I'm
somebody
getting
needs to fucking do
mhm.
something about this.
I think this is the most popular reason as to why the statistic is so high that women are filing because the follow through on men is just not there. I
Right.
think I think for a lot of what I've witnessed is men say, "Fine, then let's just get a divorce." And they think the woman won't walk into the courthouse and file because it's like a threat of like, "Oh yeah, well you'll be on your own." And it's like, "Okay, we've had the same argument 6 times. Like
Right.
I'm finally ready to pull the trigger." I mean, I think if you look at your relationship, a lot of marriages, one partner takes care a lot of the calendar, the bills, and that ends up being the person that files because they're used to taking charge and leading through whatever it is they need to lead through because they were the leader when they were married to that person. And so if it is the final person is the woman that goes and files, I think it's this reason because she's been the leader on making the doctor's appointments and calling the school and doing the school registration and all. She's always done the paperwork. So why not be this thing too? Like
Mhm.
it's like he said, "Well, I want a divorce." And she's like, I see your words. I raise you paperwork."
Right.
And I think that's why it says that women file more. It's just that we have more follow through.
Right. Right. And once we're done, we're done. I
Oh
think
yeah.
we get to that point.
Yeah.
So another person said that they think it's because they tend to benefit from staying in the marriage more than
Mhm.
leaving. Their laundry will still get done, their dinner is cooked, their kids are cared for, and they save money.
Well, I think that's exactly why they jump into the second relationship real fast. I think that's a reason why they don't leave, but I also think as the woman that divorces, you need to realize if you were the bread and butter person that you covered all basis all the time for 15 years, let's say, you really think he wants to stay single for like another 2 years? Hell no, he's going to pull somebody in pretty quick so he never has to learn
Right.
those trades. I
Right.
mean, a lot of it is comfort, security. Hey, I want somebody to do my laundry. I don't want to be the one doing it. So I'll move somebody in pretty quick and she can live here and she can be now that person and take that place. And then you have the ex-wife going, "What the fuck?" Like you waited 2 minutes to move somebody in. It's like, yeah, I was used to having somebody do the dishes, do the laundry, take care of the kids, plan
Yeah.
everything, clean up the house, and have sex with. I mean, who wants to go without that? So let's move
And
somebody in pretty quick.
that is why when your ex does move on quickly, you need to stop making it about you and
Yes.
your worth and that you're disposable or easily replaceable because it has nothing to do with you and everything to do with them.
Yeah. And the financial part. I mean, statistically, men are going to be paying child support if they're the breadwinner in the household. And so why would if I was a man and knowing I make more money than my wife, why would I voluntarily go and say, "Hey, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to be the one that files to start this process so I can lose 20 to 30% of my paycheck." Yay, sign me up for that bullshit. So like again, that's a really valid reason as to why men don't want to be the cause of them losing part of their pay. And so I think this is another great reason as to why the statistic is so high that women are the ones that does it.
Mhm.
It makes sense.
Another person had said that 95% of domestic abuse is perpetuated by men, and 1 in 4 women have experienced abuse by a partner. And so
Mm,
maybe that's why, if that is happening in the relationship, then the woman is the one to leave.
yeah, exactly. And a lot of times I think it's if you have those kids involved, it was one thing when the abuse was just you, but then when you see it getting close or in front of your children, that's when, like you said before, women just snap and go, I'm done.
Mhm.
Enough. If you're willing to do this in front of the children now, we used to do it privately in the bedroom and now, nope, done. Final straw, follow through. I'm leaving,
Mhm.
safety, children's
Yep.
safety.
And so this is a really good point too. So someone says, I think women are at a point where we have financial independence. Once in a marriage, we see how proportionate the roles are. The man
Yeah.
benefits more than the woman. So, and this is true, right? Back in the day, women didn't have shit. We had no right.
Yeah.
We couldn't buy land. We couldn't get a job. We couldn't get a credit card. We couldn't get loans. I
Right.
mean, we had to get married in order to survive and like do a lot of things. This day and age, women are a lot more financially independent than ever. And I think because we know that we don't need them anymore, if they're not adding value to our
Yeah.
lives, if they're not making things better, easier for us as a teammate should, right? Instead of
Right.
doing everything on your own, you have somebody that's supposed to be an equal partner. Then what the fuck are we doing? Like, why am
Yeah.
I here? Like, if like I don't need you, if
Right.
I'm just gonna do everything by myself anyway, then I'll
Yeah.
just go and live my life. Like, what do I need you for?
Right. I saw a TikTok where a guy was like, "Where are all the successful women?" Like all he was asking, successful women, women that are financially sound, blah blah blah. I want a good woman to share my home with and start a family with. Some guy like stitched it and came in. He goes, "They already own their own home, and they're looking at IVF for themselves."
Right. We
Like
don't need
like,
you.
they have figured out that
Ugh.
you are really pointless. Like, they have
Yes.
accomplished success in their job. They have their own home, and now they can get pregnant on their own. They have figured out they don't need you. That's where
Yes.
they're at. They're all over there doing their own
And
thing.
I love this for us. I really, really do, because they need to step up their game. It's you everybody needs to stop settling. We've been
Yeah.
doing this for way too long. And I love that we're getting to this place where we realize how empowered we actually are, how
Mhm.
amazing and powerful and multifaceted we are, and the things that we can accomplish. And unless you are someone worthy of being a part of my life, unless you're adding value to my life, you're making
Right.
my life better and easier, and it's
Right.
beneficial to have you, what then
What do
bye,
I need you for?
Felicia. Like,
Right.
there's no I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna
Right.
settle.
Yeah, and again, we've talked about this before. I think when we met Jared and David, our spouses, they came into our lives when we already were checking all of our boxes ourselves. I mean, I could
Yes.
mow my own yard, I could change my oil in my
Yep.
car, I could paying
Pay
all
my
my
own
bills,
bills.
I could take care of myself, like, and then he came in, it was like, he's fun, and I don't need him for shit.
Right.
I don't need him for anything. I already knew I looked good. I was already telling myself that at that point. I knew I just had all boxes checked.
Yeah.
And so when he walked in, I'm like, "You're just like the cherry on top of my life already."
Exactly.
Where when I met my first husband, it was like, "Ooh, I could come in and help you with your kid." And ooh, like I put myself into his life and let him add me to like it was not, I had nothing for myself. I mean, I was all of 25. I didn't know my head from my ass, and it was just so many wrong. I was not who anywhere close should have been. I didn't know what my values were. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted. And he was over there saying, "Will you help me raise this kid?" And I was like, "Sure, I have nothing else going on in my life. I'll just dive right in." And
Right,
it
right.
it was so wrong,
And then it
so
makes you feel needed and
oh,
valuable, and
yeah.
right, "Oh, he needs me. Oh, he needs my help, or he wants me to,"
Yeah.
and so because if you're not doing that for yourself, then you're more susceptible to finding
Mhm.
yourself in relationships like that.
Yeah. So it was just, and I think, I thought of you yesterday. There was a TikTok about a young couple getting married, and it was like, oh, they have the rest of their lives to spend together. I'm like, or in 4 years or 7 years, they're divorced. It's like,
Right.
Not that I think that everybody is going to get divorced, but it's like these people were 22 getting married. And I'm
Right.
like, oh my gosh, like 22?
Right. Right. Right.
22, and you are committing to life with the same person. I just can't even but I mean, I got Joe. I got Walker and Joe. I think Walker's in a long-term committed relationship, with
Mhm.
his partner, and they're happy. But it's like, whenever he comes over here, I'm like, "Are you sure you want to be with one person the rest of your life? Like
Right.
just one. It's okay if you change your mind in a year or two. Same thing with Joe. I mean, to think about women empowerment, like she already knows she's going to college to be a doctor, to be a chiropractor, and it's like that wasn't allowed a long time. She's gonna run her own business and be a
Hell yeah.
chiropractor. And she doesn't even come from a world where that sounds crazy.
Mhm.
She just comes from a world that, yeah, my uncle's a chiropractor and I want to be like him, so I'm gonna be a chiropractor.
Yeah, and I see mom running her business, so I can run my
Yeah, and
business.
she's just like, "Fuck it, this is what happens. This is what we do."
Yeah.
She was getting ready for senior year, right? And so she's graduating. She has a party coming up, when this airs. It's coming up in a couple weeks. And she ordered everything herself, went to the place that we're having it, had to sit down with the manager, and she was telling me about it yesterday because Joe goes to school in Bloomington, or like in a town. I shouldn't have said that, but in a town. And I live here. So like it's a 30-minute trip. So I'm already working, and she gets off school so early. She can just go run all of these errands and take care of her own shit. So she's getting all this stuff done for her graduation party. She goes to this restaurant and she goes in and she meets with the manager. She goes, "Mom, I met with her for an hour. We covered if it rains. We covered, table coverings. Because her and I made a list." And I said, "So what does this manager think? Does this manager think like you're like an orphan? Like, like, is she like, do you have a mom, little girl? And she goes, "Oh, I told her that you run a business and you have to work and that we work on this. And then I go do the action after we talk about it." But I'm just thinking if I was this manager and this 17-year-old has been the only point of contact for phone calls, for meetings,
I
for
would be
everything.
impressed, honestly. I would
I
be
mean,
so impressed.
I'm just like, damn,
What sign
so
is she? What sign is Joe? Do you know?
Cancer. She's Cancer.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love
She's just
her.
she's very assertive. Last night we went through and got all of and word to the wise, if you have young children, as of having two seniors graduate already, stay on top of fucking picture development, people. Like, I know a lot of you are younger parents and you think everything is in a digital world, and that's fine. That's great. And maybe you'll make a video that's digital and only have one TV up at your graduation party and all the old pictures like siphon through. That's good for you. But for those of us that are a little bit older, print out your fucking pictures, put them in photo albums so that your senior week, you're not sitting over here shoving old photos into photo albums because you just have boxes of loose photos. But also, like, keep track of when your kid gets their kindergarten picture, first grade picture, second grade, third. Because last night we were scrounging to find kindergarten and first grade. Here's a funny story. So all the other pictures are 8x10s, 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 except for kindergarten and first grade. You want to know why? Because my
Really
ex-husband
super.
stole them when we split the packages. That was back when I thought that we would
Oh,
both be mature. And so when she got the pictures and they went to his house first, he took out the 8x10. Like, I was just
mhm.
so naive back then to think that, "Oh, we'll split the package," or, "Oh, we'll talk about it," instead of just ordering my own fucking package. So she's
Right,
like, "Why is there not an 8x10 for my kindergarten and first grade?" I was like, "Well, that was when I was stupid." Like, that's
right,
when I believed in fairness and equality in divorce and co-parenting, and that's just
right.
not true. You order your own fucking package.
Well, you weren't stupid now, right? I mean, we talk
Oh,
about this with our clients all the time. You're just reasonable.
yeah.
You're rational. You're someone who would be willing to cooperate. And we hope that our co parent would do the same. But when you
Yeah.
are dealing with somebody who's high conflict, or if they are a narcissist, they
Mhm.
are just living in the world that they create in their minds, and
Yeah.
they live and breathe to push your buttons and make your life hell. So we have to be strategic and navigate in a different way than we would if somebody was just normal.
Absolutely. There was so if you know anything about like school pictures, so like I know when like you order your school pictures, it's a ripoff, right? I mean, we're paying like $36 for a package so that he can have an 8x10, two 5x7, some wallets and all
Right.
that kind of shit, right? And you like the bare bones package is at least like $24, if not 36. So back in the day, I'm dirt ass poor. And I'm like, in my mind, again, those first couple years, we'll just split the package. Like, I can't afford to buy a whole package. Well, then I wised up and I was like, no, fuck this. I'm ordering my own package. You order your own package. Well, here's what he would try. He'd say, well, I just want an add on. So I would have to buy the big package worth 36
Mm,
bucks. And then he'd slide me a 10 for one 8x10.
right.
Like, so, I mean, it's little stuff like that. And I know if some of you are not high conflict, you're like, what's the big deal? And it's like, it's not everything is like a huge deal. It's just the little drops of unrealistic behavior, of just rude, selfish behavior that just starts to pile up in the corner eventually to where you're like, why does it always have to be me that does the extra? You know, it
Right.
just wears on you sometimes. But
Yeah, and then
I
you
think if I
build up resentment.
I think, yeah, but I think if I would have had this type of perspective on life that I have now about, okay, well, what does this mean for me? Oh, this means I get to give more pictures to my family then. And he apparently only has one person he's worried about himself. And because he's not even ordering more pictures, you know,
Mhm.
like I think if I would have had the perspective talk back in the day, I think I would have handled so many different things. But, you know, going back to our subject today of filing, I was the one that filed because it was the hamster wheel that I wanted to finally get off of. I mean, we had talked about divorce no less than 6 times before I actually pulled the trigger
Right.
because I'd fall back for the love bomb, you know, or,
Right.
oh, we'll do this. And I would jump back on that hamster wheel and I jump back on that hamster wheel. And then finally I was just like, you know what, fuck it. I can't take it. Now, where I made my first mistake was filing and having no idea what step 2 was. I think so many people get so wrapped
Yeah.
up into step 1 that they don't know, oh shit, there's stuff that follows sometimes quickly thereafter on step
Right.
2 through 10. And you got to be
Right.
ready for that, you know, and that's
Yeah,
stuff
a
that
lot
we're
of people kind of they're like, "Okay, I'm like
the
building up my confidence to
divorce.
say the
Yeah.
thing and to drop the bomb and to say this is what I'm doing,"
Yeah.
and they don't have their ducks in a row so that
Mhm.
once that momentum starts going, what are your next steps? What are you gonna
Yeah.
do? And yeah, that is a huge tip. So for any of you who are in here who haven't done that yet, because I know some people are in our groups because they're considering divorce or they're thinking about it. This needs to be the biggest takeaway is before you drop that bomb, make sure that you've met with some attorneys, you've done your research, you have money in order, like you know what your next steps are going to be once you
Yep.
take that first leap.
Yeah. I even have a pre-divorce and it's called Get Your Ducks in a Row that I did it probably I made it like 5 years ago. I have a course for that. But I want to ask you before we jump off, there was some talk in my support group today about birth certificates and social security numbers.
Okay.
What's your stance on if your ex, like
Hmm.
you just split, you know, baby left, you left, you know, split homes, and your ex message you and says, I want the birth certificate and social security number. I want a copy or I want it. What do you do?
I would give a copy. I wouldn't give the actual document unless it was necessary for something. But also, I'm in a pretty
Amicable.
amicable relationship. It's not somebody who is just a nightmare to deal with, so I'm lucky in that way. But I hold also my ex is not the most organized person at all, and like
Yeah.
I have like my like my drawers and all my everything's
Yeah.
very organized. So I like to know where it is, and there was times when he would have to travel to California because that's where his family was, and he wanted to bring her, and so he would need the birth certificate for that because she's a minor. But then he would give it back to me, or I would just give a copy.
Hmm.
But I would not be okay with him just keep like holding on to the original
Yeah.
documents.
See, I didn't have my ducks in a row whenever I said I filed. And what I didn't know, because I said it, and then we kind of stayed in the same house for a few days because he was leaving to go to a training. He ransacked the whole house and piled up all the major documents. And so when we split, I got so distracted with the divorce that
Mhm.
there was like some random thing that I needed a birth certificate for. So I went to go look. Well, it was gone. And so, you know, me being logical, I'm like, hey, can I have a copy or have the birth certificate so I can go make a copy or whatever? Fuck no. Like it was a hard pass for him. And so I had to go do the work of going to Social Security office, getting the birth certificates and doing all that. And it's doable. Is it a pain in the huge ass? Yes. But it's doable. But that's just one thing right there. If you already know you're the amicable one, you're already the reasonable one, go ahead and take those first because you know
Mhm.
you will give a copy.
Right.
The other side might not, but in the reason I asked is because in the comment section, it was very clear the difference between people that get along and people that don't get along. Because the people that
Right.
got along were like, "How rude of you not to give a copy." And it's like, none of us have any idea what somebody's dealing with.
Yeah.
And it was a screenshot of the ex saying please and thank you. And everybody's like, see, he was saying please and thank you, please and thank you. But it's like, well, of course he's saying please and thank you now. We don't know what he's like 10 minutes before that text or 10 minutes
Right.
after that
Or
text,
when he doesn't want something from you.
Exactly, exactly. So it's just like every case is different. I wish more I could set that disclaimer when I make TikToks, like take this advice
Yeah.
as if it applies to you or not,
Right,
skip
right.
it,
Yeah,
but
it's like
everybody
tarot cards. Like, take what resonates, leave the rest. That's what always happens on my For You feed. If this reading's for you, you'll know what's for you.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, you guys, this is April 25th. This will air on Monday, April 29th, which is also the same day that we have so much going on. I have an custody evaluation prep workshop going on the 29th, Monday, the 29th. So when you're hearing this on Monday, that night, it's not too late to register. Go to my site, samanthaboss.com, and you can register for that custody evaluation. I'm literally going to walk people through what to say about your kids, what to say about you, how you can prove that you're a good co-parent and things that you've already done or going to do and have planned to do, and how to bring up those concerns about your ex. And then some bonus material I'm going to throw in is if somebody's coming to your home, some fail-safe ways to show that you're a good parent and you're interacting with your kids and stuff. So that's going to be going on. But also on Monday, we have our next chapter training, which is going to be about cultivating happiness with blended families.
Yes. So whether you're somebody who is considering bringing somebody into the mix, or you have already and you just want to make sure that you're taking the right steps and navigating it in the best way possible and cultivating that open communication and everything with your kids, this is the workshop to be in. So we're going to be doing
Yeah.
it Monday inside the next chapter.
Yeah. Is there anything else we have going on that day? I feel like we're dropping this. This will be out. We have the next chapter. We have the evaluation. I think that's it, right? On that day. I feel like we just have
And then,
so.
yeah, Sam and Leah is always on Monday too. Sam and
That's what it
Leah.
was. Sam and Leah is always on Mondays. So you guys, we just have a lot going on. So wherever you're watching this from, know that we will just be back every week, especially on Mondays, always heavy on Mondays, and get inside the next chapter. I mean, we have guests coming up. We have a lawyer that's a financial lawyer coming in to talk in the month of May.
We had a
I have one.
stepmom coach come in a couple weeks ago. That replay is still in
Yes.
there.
And the trial prep is still in there. I gave last
Yes.
night a group coaching call last night, and we got really wrapped up into trial prep. And I just dropped some bombs, and they're like, "How can we get a copy of this?" I'm like, "Actually, it's inside the
Right.
next chapter. So go hang out at the next chapter." So until next week, guys, take care of your kids, take care of yourself, positive affirmations all day long. But there's a reason why women file first, and we just covered all of them. Bye, everybody.